All right, friends, we're back. Your favorite podcast of the week. It's Location Weekly. It's episode number 573. We are recording on June the 14th. It is hot. It is sunny. It is summer. Well, not officially yet, but feels like summer. Hi, Brianna.
It is. It's actually not very sunny here today, but it is hot and humid. And it's summer. I've got one kid at home, so we're like relearning how to work from home with kids that are not in school, and another one that will be home finishing school soon. So it feels like I want a summer. I'm like, man, this is where teachers really luck out. I'd like to go jump on the trampoline and go to the park every day. That sounds like a win, but yeah, pushing through. Just things are a little bit slower, probably, I would like to say, over summertime, but also probably not. You've got some travels coming up though, huh?
I do. Well, first of all, it was great to see you in person
What?
last week in New York, along with our mutual friend Tim Garcia. So that was nice to catch up. Yeah, and I'm on my way tonight to Madrid for the Open Geospatial Consortium general meetings. I'm speaking there on Thursday. And yeah, like it's 25 Celsius here in Toronto today. It's like 38 there apparently this week. So I'm going from like pretty warm to super hot. Yeah, crazy.
Well, Spain is an amazing place. So hopefully you get to have a little bit of fun while you're there and see some of the beautiful sights. I love Spain. So the only time I've been to Madrid, unfortunately, it was like very rainy. So that's like a bummer,
Yeah.
but it's been
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
think I've
fun.
been like between Madrid and Barcelona. I think I've been about equal times now, maybe 4 or 5 times each city. So it's lovely. But
Yes.
anyhow, all right. Well, we have a good show for you this week. Four stories that we wanted to cover off. Some general discussion about maybe where our industry is going to start it off. So I'll let Ariana do that.
Yeah, we keep hearing about moving towards a more privacy centric consumer, focus, better consumer experience focus in technology. I won't limit it to advertising, but we've seen a lot of the work that Apple has been doing. We've heard a lot of conversations around cookieless future. What does the future of advertising look like? We've got big DSPs like the Trade Desk creating their own identifiers in place of the cookie, trying to figure out how do we continue to provide opportunities to reach relevant audiences without the cookie. And now we're hearing chatter again from some of the big players, including Apple and Google and Amazon, about the IP address and obfuscating the IP address and trying to figure out ways to make it even more privacy centric. Obviously, the IP address, amongst other information like your header string, your device type, all of those things can be used for device fingerprinting, not on its own. But Apple produced this very cute video that they showed at their annual conference about a few weeks ago, and it's a woman walking into an auction and she sees all of her data being auctioned off to the different bidders. And so it was it was a very like fun campaign. I think they did a good job putting that together. However, I think we're probably pretty far away from this taking scale, and the reason why I say that is because unlike your specific mobile device, which Apple has, obviously great proliferation of, they don't own the IP space, and every connection needs an IP address. So although they can kind of control how you are sharing an IP address when you're using their Safari browser, and Google would be able to do the same thing with Chrome, whenever you get to an actual relationship with a business, let's say it's your bank, for example, and you're visiting your banking website, then a lot of times your IP address is really necessary and needed because it's part of something that creates an important decision-making tool to understand, are you really who you say you are when you're logging in? Is there impossible travel? Could Asif be logging in from Madrid when he was just in Toronto, 8 hours ago and logged in? So there's some very important use cases that go beyond advertising where the IP address is very much needed. You also think about connected televisions and how your IP address is used so that all of your apps, and it recognizes who you are, and it knows how to make sure that it's directing the right content, and how it can actually have digital rights management to make sure that you're able to watch that content in the areas that you are. So I think that it's really important to think about the implications of and the use of IP addresses and that information sharing at a broader level beyond advertising. However, I do support a more privacy centric approach. I think also consumers do benefit from a relevance, right? Like we want to see relevant advertising. I don't want to see advertising for something that is not sold near me or in my country or in my area. So I think that the geolocation aspect, being that it's not precise and it's not tied to one specific device, can be beneficial. And I think it's something that advertisers who are paying a lot of money so that you can enjoy the content that you're watching possibly for free should be able to have access to, so that they can make sure they're reaching a relevant audience when they're spending all of that money. So I think that this is like a give and take thing. We'll see. I think it's many years away from taking on, but I do think there's going to be continued chatter around more privacy centric approach. You know, how do they enable that? How do manufacturers of devices, mobile devices, computers, the browsers that we use, how do they enable that? And then how do brands and businesses have a more direct relationship with the consumer so that they're sharing that data? So again, early days, people are still trying to figure this out. They haven't even figured out the cookieless future. So I think, this is just throwing another panic wrench in the whole, the whole market. But yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to add too much more to that because I agree with, I think, a lot of what you said. I think it's, how do I say this nicely? I think Google and Apple right now are, you know, spinning a lot of PR around being privacy centric, and making these announcements, and you know, launching initiatives. You know, Google's platform that they propose called Gannett Catcher, which is their IP address piece. They say the earliest we'll see that is 2023. Probably late in the year, and it's probably just testing, right? So I think we're a ways away from this kind of stuff. Obviously, the IDFAs and those kinds of things, are in the happening now, and things are getting tighter and making it more difficult for a lot of vendors in our space. But I echo what you said. I think the use cases for IP are different than or a broader range of use cases than for purely sort of mobile ad IDs and things like that. Because you raised the one with from a banking perspective, you have fraud detection, applications, and I was even thinking like here in Canada, or here in Ontario, anyways, we just had the opening up here in the province of online gambling. And gambling online, it tends to be a state by state or province by province controlled scenario where only people who live in that province, or IP addresses coming from that area, can actually gamble or participate. You have to be able to negotiate that digitally. So I think there are a lot of things like that aren't purely about advertising, that it's going to be difficult to try and completely clamp down on IP. That's kind of my thoughts.
There you go.
All right, on to our second story now. So we're going to jump over to Singapore, where there's a company called Grab, and they have a platform called Grab Maps, and this is an interesting announcement from them. So they're the biggest super app in the region. Millions and millions and millions of users. And they have made an announcement that they've been investing over the last little while in building their own underlying base mapping technology. And so they're not using, Google Maps or Apple Maps or anybody else's. They decided that it just wasn't good enough for the region, and in particular, we're talking about Southeast Asia. There's a lot of back alleys and narrow side streets, and weird ways to access things. And when you're in the business of food delivery services or grocery delivery services, or whatever the things might be, kinds of things that Grab Maps is doing, it becomes challenging. And so they decided to make the investment in building their own sort of underlying mapping technology for this. And then to take that a step further and actually commercially make their mapping technology available to others in the region that are having similar issues and struggles. So they describe the market in Southeast Asia as $1 billion for mapping and location-based services. That is big. That Grab Maps currently powers more than 800 billion application or API calls per month across the various Grab services. And they're finding that with their new underlying mapping technology, they're getting 4 times lower error rates and 10 times lower latency than what they had with sort of commercial mapping platforms that they were using before. So I think this is really interesting. And like I said, they're also commercially going to make this available later in the year to other apps that need mapping technology. So the base mapping data, they will license out their places information. They have 33 million POIs within Southeast Asia, and they're planning to grow this to 37 by the end of the year. So I think this is really interesting because you don't often see, this is the equivalent to like Uber Eats saying, "Hey, we're going to build our own mapping technology," and I think it's pretty interesting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do find this very interesting. It's one of those things that you almost want to say, stay on alert for some type of acquisition by a Google Maps or an Apple Maps or somebody like that. Because
Yeah.
if the technology is more advanced and it's serving that area of the world in a better way, I can only imagine that it would be more beneficial for the larger players to scoop up as well or license and incorporate into their mapping. So I think it is very interesting to see somebody building their own technology. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and on top of that, they even built their own camera, like the Street View camera cars that go around. They have their own. It's called Carta Cam. So they have their own cameras as well, their own technology that they've developed for that, which is also interesting. So
Sorry, it's really loud here. Hopefully you can still hear me with all the
you're good. I'm not hearing
the
anything. So
background noise that's going on over here. So let's move on to the next story. This is kind of a feel-good story and more of an announcement, but Walmart is now partnering with a senior care app. It's called Avonlea Care. And that app specifically is for families who have seniors that they're taking care of, but they're taking care of them remotely, right? So a lot of times we don't end up living near our families or our parents, and they're aging, and so they want to stay where they are. They want to age with their friends and with their community that they love, and so being able to kind of support them and help care for them from another location is really important for families. And that's why this Avonlea Care app was actually developed by someone who was kind of having that pain point, I think, by caring for her mother remotely. So now they're partnering with Walmart. So they're able to help coordinate care, monitor the wellness of aging loved ones through grocery delivery. So they're using and utilizing the Walmart grocery delivery service, powered by Walmart completely, but it's all embedded in their app, which is really cool. And I like this a lot because I think we talk a lot of times about how perhaps with an older demographic, they're not maybe so savvy with their phones. They're not going to be ordering Instacart or Grubhub or using their devices in the same way that we do. And the same thing will be true with us and how our children interact with devices at some point too. But I think it's really great that they're allowing other family members to help do this and make the delivery and just powering that through Walmart, which has locations all over the place. So I think this is a great partnership and obviously something that will be helpful for a lot of families, I think.
yeah, it's a huge growing need, right? Like I think like the AARP survey said 90% of U.S. adults age 60 or older want to stay in place, right? And I think that therefore that sort of challenge falls on their children to try and support them in any way that they can, right? And so that's having apps like this that are able to monitor that they're getting their medication or what's going on with them health wise is important. And if you can extend that to make sure that they're also getting the food that they need from a grocery perspective, all integrated in one app. I think why not? So I think good combination here of Walmart and Avonlea Care. So all right, final story now. We're going to jump over to Okinawa, Japan, where NTT Data has launched a new service. It actually launches tomorrow on June 15th called Moby Comma. And this is what they describe as a mobility as a service solution for tourists. So they're starting this in Okinawa. So if you're a tourist and you're coming in, and in particular, they're focusing initially on the car rental and car sharing operator markets. And so basically, the way this works is it's a new service that in these vehicles, these car sharing or car rental vehicles, there's several tablets installed in the vehicles that allow passengers to share their travel itinerary, and then it makes suggestions based on real-time location data as to tourist spots that you can check out or destinations you can see. It's kind of interesting. They've got like a little demo of this I was looking at earlier, and it can make recommendations on everything from sightseeing spots. It can give you tips on places to eat. It's got like a kind of an avatar or a main character that's kind of navigating you through all this experience called Sasuke, on kind of what the cool places are. It can, and then the navigation is based on the itinerary. So once the travel plan is registered in the tablet, and this is all happening sort of in the rear seat of the vehicle, the system then brings up the route and links you, to the smartphone in the driver's seat. So it's connecting basically from the back seat to the front seat. So you pop in where you want to go, and it automatically updates the driver and adjusts the route and things like that. So I think that's kind of interesting. Like I've not seen that happening before. Certainly not anywhere I've been, or any rental car or Uber or anything like that I've been in. So that's kind of interesting. There's multiple tablets, so if you're like there with let's say a companion or a family member in the back of the car, you can kind of coordinate and look at stuff together and co-plan your trips. And then it even has an entertainment function where you can do karaoke while you're in the car through these tablets. So there's a lot going on here, but I think it's pretty interesting. So it launches tomorrow on June the 15th in Okinawa, and their first partner is a company called Orix, ORIX, which is a car rental company out of Naha Airport.
You had me at karaoke, Asif. I think this is a very like culturally relevant offering. So I think this is more for like probably that culture that's traveling within that area versus maybe tourists coming over from like stateside or North America. But I think, it's nice to be able to have all of those recommendations, especially if it comes in multiple languages, and be able to kind of navigate and book it right in there. And also to allow the entire group to participate in the plans and ideas of, maybe what you're doing. And obviously the karaoke and entertainment function, I'm sure is fun. Maybe at least for a little bit, depends on who's making the song choices in the backseat, but it's very interesting. I like it. It makes me think of the times that like, have you ever been in the Ubers that have the karaoke in the back and you're like, whoa, it's really interesting and fun, and always a good surprise. So, being able to do that like in your own rental car and get recommendations on things to do.
I think it's kind of interesting, right? I could see this kind of taking off, at least across Japan. We'll have to. I'll have to reach out to our team members over there at the LBMA in Japan, Cooney and company, and get them to weigh in on this. Maybe we can even get the NTT people to come over and talk about this at Retail Loco. You never know.
Maybe you guys can do some karaoke together.
There you go. Yes. You know me. I'm always up for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our show for this week. You've been listening and watching episode number 573 of Location Weekly. Thank you so much for your time. Please reach out to us if you have story ideas. I did get a request this week, so we're looking into that for next week. we encourage that. So bring it on, and we'll see you next week with another show. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.